Chapter 19. Lucifer and the Prophecy. Lucifer stalked about the great hall, his mood much improved after Moloch's news. He had immediately sent a party to retrieve the girl Naamah, who was rightfully under his authority now. He walked over to the great wall of scrolls lining the shelves and closed the massive doors shut. He needed to think alone. One by one, he rolled his index finger across the scrolls, searching. In them, all of the words of the Most High were written. These were his personal copies. After wrangling the minion of the third planet of the Orion sector near Pleiades away from that imbecile Adam, he'd gone straight to the outer realm, marched into the courts of the Ancient One, and demanded his copy of the Great Law. Public savagery and humiliation may be your tools, he sneered at the beloved in the midst of the High Council, but I will defeat you peaceably, using your own words against you. You say you are just, well then let words against you. You say you are just, well then let us see. He stormed out, but not before he heard one of the elders ask, Why do you tolerate the rebellion of that Satan? What gives him the right to come before us? Elder Salanea, he is the legal ruler of a colony planet. Our law states every planet must have representation before the council and the right to address grievances before a jury of peers. Those are my words. But this is ridiculous. We all know that devil's intentions. Yes, and steps have been taken to limit Lord Lucifer's power, legally, until we rectify the situation permanently. Elder Salanea as usual, his face long and serious. They will make sure the boundaries are maintained. Meanwhile, all communication from other systems is strictly prohibited until the planet Adama is fully reinstated. Yes, well, that should suffice, I suppose. But what of the inhabitants? That life form, the human, was created for sonship in the family, under Lord Lucifer's rule. Your compassion speaks highly, Lord Salanea. As we speak, the plan to offer citizenship directly to the exiles is already in action. Lord Salanea thought for a moment and then chuckled as he pointed his finger, as if the answer was in front of him all along. Ah, indeed, my lord, that's clever. Citizens may appeal directly to the High Council and receive justice regardless of the planetary authority. Section 173. Exactly. We honor his legal dominion while providing relief from it. You see my father's will in this now, said the beloved. Yes, it is most wise indeed. But under what grounds will citizenship be granted? The taint in Adam's DNA continues in all successive generations. Citizenship by birthright is impossible. Is it now, dear Lord Salanea? With our father, nothing is impossible. After that, Lord Lucifer lost track of the conversation as the beloved led the elders into the innermost chambers of the seat of council. But what he'd heard during that visit was enough. Now he racked through his scrolls, slipping them out of their cylinders one by one as they spiraled into transparent sheets and hovered in the air around him. He was satisfied. He won't trick me again with one of his fancy maneuvers. The great leader scowled as he remembered Adam's descent into Sheol. The minions he'd sent to snatch the man's essence from its casing were triumphant as they dragged their hostage to Sheol. Well, 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 what a surprise, said Lord Lucifer as he approached Adam. About time, too. 930 years is too long for a fool. Release me, Satan. You have no right. I have every right, slave. He slapped that perfect face as hard as he could. The man before him buckled, but did not bend. I see you are still too proud to show proper respect to your master. But that will soon change. You will address me as Lord. Before he could finish, a figure of light appeared before him. Ah, beloved, said Lord Lucifer mockingly with a deep bow. So you finally decide to visit my humble abode. I would offer you. No, there is absolutely nothing here. No technology, none of the most useful elements. No conversion devices. We must do everything by hand to reproduce the most basic of necessities. Of course not. Did you expect your exile to be comfortable? Enough of the matter. I came for the man. Release Adam and be about your business. Lord Lucifer laughed as he swirled around and beckoned the echelons and lessers to join him. Come see your beloved, whom you faithfully serve. Beg me for this piece of dung he created and betrayed us with. What's wrong, Lord? Have you no power to? The beloved blazed bright, feeling familiar with the dark. The motion sent all to their knees, wincing in agony as they tried to hide from its brilliance, all except Adam and Lord Lucifer. The man seemed invigorated by its luminescence, while Lord Lucifer seethed, standing straight and tall in its glare, unable to move at all. Unable to move at all. I was merely giving you the opportunity to cooperate without force as a courtesy. The beloved placed a hand on Adam's shoulder, and the man was immediately encircled by a veil of mist, cool, blue, transparent, and impenetrable. "What is this?" said Lord Lucifer through gritted teeth. "He is mine. He violated the code and forfeited dominion to the second in command on this vile world, me. I demand that you hand over my subject immediately." "Lord Lucifer," said the beloved blandly, as he withdrew a scroll from his robe and tossed it at the great leader's feet. "You astonishes me. You grasped for the rule of this domain, yet did not familiarize yourself with the principles governing it. This man made restitution before his temporary status expired. Read Regulation 248.7 of Section Alpha Ta, which states an exile may appeal his or her status if sufficient compensation is made in lieu of said transgressions. Furthermore, he or she is entitled to protection and provision within the designated jurisdiction until a final judgment is made regarding his or her appeal. Therefore, I am granting this man's rights and placing this man in protective custody." The beloved, with an outstretched hand, lifted the cloud containing the man above the squirming lessers and turned to leave. "Wait!" yelled Lucifer. "Stop! You cannot remove him from Sheol. Sheol is the designated seat of jurisdiction on Adama." "So it is, Lucifer. I never said I was removing him from Sheol." The beloved began. "I never said I was removing him from Sheol." The beloved began walking down the tunnel no one had dared venture before because of the depth of its darkness. The cloud hovered above the beloved, following his every move. "Where is he taking the man?" asked one of the powers who emerged from his hiding place once the beloved was out of view. "Oh, but I will find out. Follow that cloud." No, no, no. He will not deceive me again. Lord Lucifer rested his finger upon the phrase he was searching for. "That's it." He swirled the lit image into the cylinder with a touch of his finger and slammed the cylinder with a touch of his finger and slammed the scroll shut. Satisfied with his findings, he swung open the massive doors leading into the great hall. "Send the powers to my chambers," he called out to the lesser posted outside his chamber, "and bring the woman to me." He to the childling sleeping in the basket, for now the baby remained in the captain's abode, since the women, even the Medici, appeared to be afraid of him. "It is wondrous, Captain," said Azazel, as he puffed on the long-handled pipe and stared at the infant whose skin illuminated the room with a faint golden glow. "I believe he has your reflection. I can't believe the beloved denied us the right all this time. I didn't want to believe it myself, but something the great leader said just rang true, and I had to find out for myself. You and the others will soon benefit from our oath." "Well, my time is nigh. I wonder if my childling will display my—" A loud wail from the basket interrupted the speculation. "Ah, it's time for his meal." Simjaza yelled to the Sabasi attending them, "Send for a woman to feed my son." Yes, my lord. But what?" "My lord, the women are afraid. The childling, she stammered. She stammered. "He is not like other babies." "Of course he isn't," snapped Simjaza. "He is Nephilim." "Yes, but we cannot satisfy him. He just cries and cries." "He is never satisfied with our breasts. It takes 3, sometimes 4 women to supply enough milk for him, and then we do not have enough milk for our own children. And what of it? Your children are not important. If a few of them starve to bring about restoration to this weak race, is it not worth it?" But my lord, if Nema the divine, the child's mother, had lived, she surely would have enough milk to feed her own child." Azazel snickered as captain and lifted her by the neck until she was level to his face. The Sabasi's feet dangled helplessly in the air as he spoke softly. "My dear woman, I am deeply grieved by my wife's death, but if anything should happen to my son, I am not responsible for what would befall this pitiful tribe. Do I make myself clear?" A look of horror crossed the woman's face, but she masked it well. Yes, my lord. Now take my son and feed him," said Simjaza as he dropped her. "Feed him with your own children if you have to. Just make sure he is content when you return. If not, you will pay dearly. I promise." Basket and scurried away, leaving the door bouncing on its hinges as she fled. Simjaza walked to the entryway and watched her head toward the tents of the Medici. Can you believe the nerve of that ungrateful woman? Azazel took another puff on the pipe and leaned against the doorframe. "Well, what do you expect from a subspecies? Say, Well, what do you expect from a subspecies? Say, do you see that? What? What is it?" "Look towards El Tava. It looks like the elders of Cain are gathering. Their banners adorn the pillars." "What? I authorize no meeting of the elders." "Nevertheless, my captain, they are gathering. Shall we go and see the cause?" Simjaza had already donned his ornate robe of the guard and stalked past Azazel. "Don't just stand there. Send for the others and have them meet me there." "Captain, can't you just signal them? It would take several minutes to contact them manually." Simjaza sighed. "Must you question everything, Azazel? If you must know, be awry. I haven't been able to hear or send signatures for quite some time. I've been planning to go to Mount Arata to see the cause, but I didn't want to leave the Seti before the childling arrived. Now, never mind that. I will make the trek to the gate and reset my essence soon. Just call the others. It's time I put that Lamech in his place. Now that my son has arrived safely, I will not tolerate this insubordination." Enoch stood at the seat of honor in the center of El Tava, speaking in loud tones as he addressed the elders of Cain in Adam's formal tongue. He ignored the raised bows and glimmering weapons raised high in the air. Some pointed menacingly towards him as he delivered his message. He knew the men wanted to shut him up, but they seemed transfixed by his words and did nothing while they seethed in silent fury. "This time you have gone too wide. A terrible fate has been decreed and there is no preventing it. But perhaps now, even if you soften your hearts and repent, your Father will forgive your trespasses and grant you mercy." "Aye, what's that, you fool?" called out Lamech as he made his way toward the speaker's seat. "Only your fear brings you here, and you know it. We've heard that your precious Alru has come to naught. Our Medici tell us you are unable to cure with it. We knew the truth, and you refused because of your arrogance. Now it is you who needs us, bearer." Father Lamech's craggy face displayed every vengeful line as he stared the smaller man down. "The only be destroyed by the slick speech of those forbidden to dwell here. And with your rebellious acts, you have drawn great evil to this." "Ah, I see it's back to," said Father Lamech. Just then Tubal-Cain came to his father's side and whispered in his ear, "Father, Captain Simjaza and the Elohim approach." "Well, let them," he said. "I am tired of that pompous fool. It's time we take back what is ours. We don't need those oversized men killing our women and eating the fruit of our toil. I've been watching that Captain Simjaza closely, and I tell you this, he has no more power than that of a strong man. If enough of us, Father Lamech, if you need to consult your son of a strong man, if enough of us, Father Lamech, if you need to consult your son before speaking, please do so quietly and out of my way. As the bearer of the seed and chosen ruler of Adam's realm, I exercise my right to address this tribe publicly." "You have no rights here," shouted Tubal-Cain. "At least we have that," said Captain Simjaza, raising his voice over the others as he rode his stallion to the pillars of El Tava and dismounted. He leapt down the steps 4 at a time until he reached the raised platform at the bottom of the gathering place. "We have established dominion in this territory and covenant with this tribe, although why they assemble without my permission is the meaning of this." "See here, you watcher," said Lamech. "We don't need your permission to do anything. This is our—" "Careful, Lamech. Rash words will bring harsh consequences." "Well spoken indeed," said Enoch, stepping in between the two and laying a hand on the Elohim's shoulder. "For you, Captain Simjaza, with your words have deceived these men and done that which is forbidden. For truth, saith the Ancient One, your consequences will be severe." Father Lamech stumbled backwards and shielded his hands over his eyes as he watched Enoch become unbearably bright. Simjaza's show of power simply stared, unable to move. Ah, new tricks, bearer? It is no trick. It is the sign of the ancient father's confirmation, a gift to us all that shows us the path of wisdom. Oh, that you had waited and seen it for yourselves the night of the ceremony. Now, you too must reap the consequence of disobedience. Enoch removed his hand from Simjaza and hopped onto the elevated speaker's seat. Hear the word of the Lord, you sons of the Most High. Enoch stood firm and resolute as he observed the other watchers flowing through the gates of El Tavah behind Azazel. It looked as if there were about 200 in all. The sight of Captain Simjaza crumpled before him in submission shocked them into silence. Enoch held out his scroll and began again. I saw in my sleep what I now will relate with a tongue of flesh and with my breath, which the Great One has given to the mouth of men, that they might converse, as he has created and given to men the power to understand the word of knowledge. Thus also he has created me and given to me the power to upbraid the watchers, the sons of heaven. From now on you will not ascend into heaven to all eternity, and upon earth it has been decreed that you shall be bound for all the days of the world. But before this, you will have seen the destruction of your beloved children, and you will not be able to possess them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. Petitions for them will not be granted unto you, nor any for yourselves. Enoch rolled up his scroll and walked by, passing the Elohim, who now lay prostrate along the rows, wailing. He stopped at the top step and took one final look back. Hear the word of the Most High. Amezrach took one last look around his abode with the sons of Cain. He'd heard Simjaza's command, but hung back as the other Elohim went to El Tavah. He knew what was to come, since he'd returned from the Seti of Seth. During that time, he began to warn as many of the people discreetly as he could, especially the Sabasi. They were more apt to believe him, them to see more of the manifestations than the others. As they rushed about cooking, cleaning, and doing menial tasks, they saw the behavior of the double-faced ones, as they began to call them. A young Sabasi who'd come to him for a tonic for the divine, but was afraid to enter their home, asked him, Many pardons, Benai el-Mezarek, but do you know of the stranger? What be they? Amezrach told the girl of the fallen and instructed her to leave the delivery at the door of those homes, but not to enter. He then gave her the name of an elder he knew was loyal and could help her, Tubal-Cain. After Naaman's death, Tubal-Cain came to him distraught. Amezrach remembered how he begged, Tubal-Cain, I am not the Most High. My remedies only work while there is yet life in the blood. No, no, you have to do something. You can save her. You have to, please, please. Tubal-Cain dropped to his knees. What is it? You require a sacrifice? I will give whatever you desire. Just save her. Here. I will give whatever you desire. Just save her. Here, he said, placing his head on the stool as if he was a lamb waiting for the sacrificial blow to fall. Take my life. Just save Naamah. It wasn't her fault. It was mine. It was mine. I never should have. Tubal-Cain wailed. Is there nothing I can do? Isn't there anything I can do to help her? She can't be gone. Please, please bring her back. I'm sorry, said Amezrach as he grabbed the man's shoulder and pulled him upright. There is nothing I can do to bring Naamah back now. But this is not your burden to carry alone. This is also my fault. There was a moment when this all could have been prevented, but I did not act. No. Instead of protecting, I allowed those entrusted to me to be harmed. Tubal-Cain, I allowed you to be harmed. That night in the woods when we rescued you, I could have told you the truth. I could have told you that Simjaza was lying, that he'd made it again at the ceremony of union. I could have tried to stop the Elohim, but I didn't. You are not the only one who hasn't done what you could have. A range of emotions flashed across Tubal-Cain's face, from anger to sadness and finally resignation, as he allowed Amezrach's words to sink in. Finally, to face Amezrach. Well, what now? We do what we can. Other moments may have passed us by, but this moment is still with us. We must act swiftly. I will not be with you much longer, and there is much to accomplish before my departure. Amezrach and Tubal-Cain talked through most of Sun's sleep as they planned how to help the sons of Cain. Tubal-Cain would begin teaching the men, just those who could be trusted, how to craft weapons and concealing them until the time was right, while Amezrach shared as much as he could about the nature of plant life on Adama and their beneficial uses with the Medici, especially Yabasheth. And although he could no longer heal instantly like he did with Tubal-Cain the night he was injured, for his virtue was greatly diminished, he did show the Medici Yabasheth the basic principles of manual mending and speaking life over the injured. He was quite sure she could competently set a broken bone, reduce swelling, and stitch a wound, and teach the others the method. He just hoped it was enough to offset the secrets of the dark way he knew Azazel was teaching the divine. That set of incomplete knowledge stolen from the one mind by Lucifer before his exile could perfectly mimic the force of the Ancient One's essence, for a time, option to the user without the core catalyst, the beloved. Amezrach peered out the window towards the dwellings of the divine. He shook his head as he thought of the incantations and mixtures they meddled in without understanding. Even the Elohim had difficulty comprehending the beloved and his relationship to the Father and the one mind. All I know is that the beloved was already there in the beginning, and without him nothing was made, and somehow he is the essential code or word that holds all things together. And when I become one with the beloved, I also become one with the Ancient One, and then I have access to the one mind. Mysterious indeed, but that is how it works. Those Elohim closest in communion possessed the greatest power, a power guaranteed to all who entered that fellowship and remained. Amezrach threw more of the vials and pouches into his satchel. They clinked against one another with increasing frustration as he recalled his last effort. Last sun's sleep, he tried to tell Medici Yabasheth of this communion with the one mind, which would enable one to channel instantaneous mending with mere words spoken. But the woman was too far removed from fellowship with the Ancient One to receive it. The most she could grasp was exchange, the sacrifice of one thing for another. She knew if she made a sacrifice, the hidden Father would return the gesture with a response. So after hours of explaining and answering her questions to no avail, Amezrach finally advised her to continue the practice of meeting the Most High at the altar whenever there was a need, knowing that the temporary grace of seed would see to that. Amezrach sighed. He knew that now. He only wished he had been sure of that knowledge in time to convince Samjaza of his error. That childling was not the seed. No, it was something else. He gathered the scrolls containing the documentation required by the High Council and placed them in his sack. A glint of something shiny caught his attention on the floor. There, in the corner of the room. Oh, it must have fallen from my pouch. He picked it up and held the small metal pen in his hand. 2 jewel-encrusted swords crossed in a flame sparkled brilliantly in the sun's rays. Samjaza for outstanding service. He remembered how Samjaza had led his company against the furious ones during the conflict. No one had been more loyal and true than Samjaza. That's why General Michael chose him to command the Watchers. Amezrach placed the pen in his satchel. He touched his cheeks with surprise. Fine drops of water were flowing down them. I didn't know this could happen to an Elohim. He wanted them to stop. He willed it. They wouldn't. I have had on this suit of flesh too long. He made his way up the stony path away from the dwellings of the divine. He could see Enoch ahead, leaving El Tavah. He was coming towards